Today, we will break down the 140-pound division, a very hot division, to see who we believe, or who I believe, will be the last man standing.
Straighter, not a roundhouse right hand.
And that's what we've been talking about, the straight shot, the one where he gets leverage on it.
I don't want to kill
Pull
somebody
back
for
a little bit.
seconds.
Nah, I want a body on my record.
Now, I want to see you fight motherfuckers. I do. All right? I'm with you. I'm with you. As long as you're trying to fight the great, the best competition.
Welcome to the graveyard. Click the link if you dare to. Bury you alive, I'm prepared to. Welcome to the graveyard. You get your sources from clowns, so when you come around, we don't hear you. Welcome to the graveyard. Click the link if you dare to. Bury you alive, I'm prepared to. Welcome to the graveyard. You get your sources from clowns, so when you come around, we don't hear you. Yo, it's the best, fight the best. If you ain't with the moto, just click the link, bitch, and get buried like the rest. It ain't gonna work how you want it. These trolls already tried, too many come but don't leave. So if you here, you gotta die. I'm spitting straight facts. These bitches crying cause they hate that. The LDBC's the top topic, bitch, hate that. We the ones that bring the truth to these fans. So while you hate, I'ma laugh and keep counting these bands. Welcome to the graveyard. Click the link if you dare to. Bury you alive, I'm prepared to. Welcome to the graveyard. You get your sources from clowns, so when you come around, we don't hear you. Welcome to the graveyard. Click the link if you dare to. Bury you alive, I'm prepared to. Welcome to the graveyard. You get your sources from clowns, so when you come around, we don't hear you.
Welcome to the graveyard.
Looking at the rankings, we know that Josh Taylor is moving up, vacating all 4 belts. So this tournament will establish the new king of the division, albeit however you want to see the fight that Josh Taylor was in. He's still undefeated and he's still the champion, the undisputed champion. He will be moving up, vacating all the belts. Now, this division is one of the hottest divisions in boxing. This division is an underrated division, and it's similar to 154 pounds with a lot of guys in here that can make a lot of noise. But when we break this down, we have to get to 8 fighters in this tournament. So there's going to be some fighters that get left out. So if you're not ranked in the top 10 in multiple sanctioning bodies, if you're not a known fighter, and you don't have this skill set, you just have some victories, but you don't have this skill set, then you're going to be left off of this. There's going to be some fighters that have this skill set that potentially don't have the victories. There's going to be some fighters that have the victories but not the skill set. There's going to be some fighters that have the victories and the skill set, but then they're not ranked in the top 10, and they're going to be left off, unfortunately, because there's so many good fighters in this division. So with that being said, let's get to the first fighter that will be placed in the tournament in 140. Regis Prograis. Regis Prograis is ranked in all 4 sanctioning bodies. He's ranked number 7 in the WBO, number 5 in the IBF, number 3 in the WBC, and number 6 in the WBA. Regis Prograis arguably beat Josh Taylor. There's an argument for that. And he's fought pretty much all the top guys that are in the whole division. And if he didn't fight them, he's trying to fight them. But he's ranked in all 4, and he's the most known name down there. He's been there for long enough. So it might be time for him to move up shortly. But for this video's purpose, Regis Prograis is the number 1 fighter. Regardless of where he's ranked, he's the number 1 fighter at 140. He's the most known fighter at 140. And he's the first fighter in my tournament. The second fighter in the top 4 to enter my tournament is Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez was the unified champion that fought Josh Taylor for undisputed and lost. Jose Ramirez is ranked number 2 in the WBC, and he's ranked number 4 in the WBO. He's a very good fighter, and he deserves to be in this list. The number 3 fighter to make my list is Jose Zepeda. Jose Zepeda is a puncher boxer, a power puncher boxer. He's a very good fighter. He's ranked number 1 in the WBC, and he's ranked number 5 in the WBO. Jose Zepeda should be in line to fight for the vacant WBC title, being that Jose Zepeda and Regis Prograis both won their last fights. You can expect to see in reality Jose Zepeda versus Regis Prograis or Jose Ramirez for the vacant WBC title. One of those 3 fights will more than likely be happening. But for this tournament's purposes, Jose Zepeda will absolutely be in my rankings. He's a very good fighter, and he will be making some noise. Rounding off my list, rounding off the top 4, is Subriel Matias. Subriel Matias is a killer. He's an absolute beast. He's a power puncher. He's a savage, aggressive fighter. He's ranked number 2 in the IBF, and he's ranked number 8 in the WBC. Subriel Matias will absolutely make some noise in this tournament. Now, let's move on to the bottom half, the bottom 4, to see who will these fighters be facing. My number 5 fighter, the fighter coming in first and will be facing off against Regis Prograis, will be Teofimo Lopez. He's ranked number 2 in the WBO, and he's ranked number 6 in the WBC. Now, Teofimo Lopez is a known name. He can fight. He just ducked Devin, but he can fight. He's a boxer puncher, going up against a boxer puncher. This is a really good fight. It's a really good fight between 2 good fighters, but one of them just has more heart. But we'll get to that one here in a little bit. My number 7 fighter, my number 6 fighter that will be coming into this tournament and will be facing Jose Carlos Ramirez will be Jack Catterall. Now, this is actually a good fight because Jack, in my opinion, like I said, Jack Catterall beat Josh Taylor, and Josh Taylor beat Jose Ramirez. So, yeah, this will be a good fight. But I have Jack Catterall coming in at number 6. He's ranked number 3 in the WBO. He's ranked number 4 in the WBC, and he's ranked number 10 in the WBA. Jack Catterall is a very good fighter. He's very fast, and this is going to be a good fight between him and Jose Ramirez. This next one, my number 7 fighter going into the tournament, was difficult because it was between Jeremiah Ponce and Arnold Barboza. Jeremiah Ponce is ranked higher in one of the sanctioned bodies, and he's ranked number 1 in the IBF, number 15 in the WBO, and number 11 in the WBC. And on the other side, Arnold Barboza is ranked number 6 in the WBO, number 9 in the WBC, and number 15 in the IBF. So, and what led me more towards Arnold Barboza is a more known name. He's a more known name than Jeremiah Ponce, and he's ranked higher in two of the 3 sanctioning bodies that they're ranked in. Again, Jeremiah Ponce is ranked number 1, where Barboza is ranked number 6, but then in the other 2 sanctioning bodies, he's ranked 11 and 15, whereas Barboza is ranked 9 and 15. So he's just ranked higher in 2 sanctioning bodies than Jeremiah Ponce, which is what put him in above Jeremiah Ponce. And I was going back and forth between these 2 fighters because, again, Arnold Barboza is just more known. He's an aggressive puncher, and Jeremiah Ponce is, he's a boxer. And it was more the more known stance. That's what put Arnold Barboza in over Jeremiah Ponce. Not to say that Ponce is not a good fighter, because he is. Again, 140 is a difficult division to get 8 fighters out of all these good fighters. And the last fighter to enter my tournament is Gary Antoine Russell. Now, I understand it would probably make sense to add Jeremiah Ponce over Gary Antoine Russell, but Gary Antoine Russell is ranked number 7 in the WBC and number 9 in the WBA. He just beat Victor Postol. He's more known than Jeremiah Ponce, and he's ranked in the top 10 in both of those sanctioned bodies that he's ranked in. Jeremiah Ponce is ranked number 1 in the IBF, yes, but then he's ranked 15 and 11 in the other 2. So Jeremiah Ponce and Arnold Barboza would have been, that's the matchup to determine which one will be in there. It's not a matchup with Gary Antoine Russell. Gary Antoine Russell is more known than both of those guys. And the only reason why Arnold Barboza came in above in the 7th spot over Gary Antoine Russell is because Arnold Barboza is ranked in 3 sanctioned bodies. Again, there's a lot of good talent in this division, so there's going to be some that are left off. And with that being said, let's talk about the fighters who are left off. Some honorable mentions that just won't make it into this tournament. Liam Parra is a good fighter, but he's not known one. He's not great. He's not like some world beater that everybody needs to pay attention to. The aforementioned Jeremiah Ponce is a good fighter. You have Montana Love, who is a known fighter. He's very good, very skilled, but then he's only ranked number 10 in the IBF, and he's not ranked anywhere else. You have Robert Easter, who's on here. He's been very inactive. He hasn't fought, and he's like in surgery or with not surgery, but he has an injury, so he's going to be out for a while. You have Sandor Martin, who beat Mikey Garcia. He's a good fighter. He's ranked number 4 in the WBA. He's ranked number 13 in the IBF, and he's ranked number 5 in the WBC. But he's got one fight on his record, and that's Mikey Garcia. Nobody really knows this guy other than the Mikey Garcia fight. So whereas it would have been cool to have him on there, the other names that I have on here, I believe, would beat him. So that's the reason why they're not there. You have a Jose Pedraza, who is a very good fighter. But he's a very good fighter, and he's known, but he's ranked number 12 in the WBC and number 13 in the WBO. He's not in the top 10 anywhere, right? So a lot of these guys push themselves out. And then you have like a O'Hara Davis, who's a name, but, he really hasn't done anything. He's a name, he's known, but he's done nothing. And then you have Alberto Puello. He's a good fighter too. He's ranked number 1 in the WBA. He's ranked number 13 in the WBC. So he's done some stuff, but he's not known. These other guys that I mentioned, they're more known than him. He might be on the same notoriety as a Jeremiah Ponce or Arnold Barboza. However, he's only ranked in 2 sanctioned bodies, right? So these sort of things sort of alleviate themselves and they rectify themselves, which gives us the 8 fighters in our tournament. Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez, Jose Zapata, Subral Matias, Teofimo Lopez, Jack Catadero, Arnold Barboza, and Gary Antoine Russell. Looking at our first matchup between Regis Prograis and Teofimo Lopez, this is a very, very good fight. We have 2 flat-footed fighters that are going to mix it up and bang. Regis is a puncher with a chin. He can box his ass off, but he's a puncher, and he's a counter puncher. Whereas Teofimo Lopez is more of an aggressive puncher. He counter punches as well, but he's more known as an aggressive fighter. His footwork is a little bit better than Regis, but both of their footworks are not the greatest at all. Where I would favor, the fighter I would favor more is the fighter with more heart. I would favor Regis. He has more heart, and his chin is better. Regis has been caught by some good shots, whereas Teofimo got caught by a feather-fisted puncher and dropped. He got busted up and beat up by a feather-fisted puncher in Cam Bozo, and he lost his heart in that fight. He's never got it back. Well, actually, he lost his heart with Devin, but in that fight, he was just looking, just mow the guy over, and realized that you can't just do that. Fighting a fighter like Regis Poirier, I can see Teofimo Lopez getting dropped, if not once, twice. I can see this fight going a distance. I don't think they're going to knock each other out, but I do, because Regis Poirier he does this thing with his punches where he doesn't throw multiple combinations. If he threw more combinations, he would have beat Josh Taylor, but that's a whole different story. He throws one punch, and that punch is good. It's a really good punch. However, he would need to put more together to get Teofimo Lopez out of there. So with that being said, I have Regis Poirier beating Teofimo Lopez by unanimous decision, potentially dropping him twice. I can see at least once, but potentially twice, and then going on to win that victory and moving forward in this tournament. With the second fight between Jose Carlos Ramirez and Jack Cataro, this is another good fight where Jose Ramirez is a clean fighter, and he was beaten by a dirty fighter in Josh Taylor. Jose Ramirez is now going to be fighting a clean fighter in Jack Cataro. The problem here is Jack is just better. He's faster, he's quicker, his footwork is better, his punch placement is better. Jose Ramirez is an aggressive fighter, but he's open to counters. And I believe that Jack will counter him all night long. I believe the movement will be a problem for Jose Ramirez. This will be completely one-sided in my opinion. And I have Jack beating Jose Ramirez by unanimous decision and moving on to face Regis Poirier. With the third fight in our tournament being between Jose Zapata and Arnold Barboza. This is another stylistic gem. We have two boxer punchers, one of them who is a bigger puncher, one of them who just believes he's a bigger puncher. Jose Zapata is a bigger puncher than Arnold Barboza, and he's done it against better competition. But Arnold Barboza is looked at as a big puncher himself. This fight, I see Jose Zapata is a sharper fighter than Barboza. Barboza is he's aggressive, he's sharp himself, but Zapata is sharper. I can see Zapata catching Barboza with something that he's not, or trying to get away from, that he's not seeing, and being overly aggressive and getting put to sleep. Jose Zapata is a sharpshooter. His punch placements is very, very good. But I have Jose Zapata stopping Arnold Barboza in the later rounds and going on to face the winner of Subral Matisse versus Gary Antoine Russell. In the fourth fight of this tournament, and probably the most exciting fight of any fight that's going to happen, Subral Matisse versus Gary Antoine Russell. Two absolute killers. Both of these fighters are going to get dropped. Both of these fighters are going to get hurt. But there will be no knockout. This fight is going to go the distance. It is going to be a fight of the year type of fight. An absolute war is going to swing back and forth from Subral up to Gary up. This is going to be an absolute outright war. But I think Gary Antoine will edge it out on a split decision. I think his educated punches is what's going to edge this out for him. Subral Matisse is an absolute killer. He's a savage, a straight beast. Man, this is going to be a war. And like I said, the best fight of all of them. This is going to be a war. But like I said, I think Gary's going to edge it out. I think his punch placement, and his activity. Not to say that Subadal is slow. He is not slow, and he's very active himself. But Gary's punch placement, I think, is going to be the difference. I think the constant going to the body, when there's not going to be any lulls, but when there are like a minor lull is going to be Gary going to the body, trying to push some little bit of pressure on Subadal. And I think that's where Gary's going to get caught. But those are going to be the difference. This is going to be splitting hairs. And I just see Gary, pulling it off at the end by a split decision. I can see one judge having it wide for Subadal, and then one judge having it close for Gary, and another judge having it close, the final decision, close for Gary. I'm going with Gary Russell over Subadal Matias by split decision. In the second round, first fight with Regis Prograis and Jack Catterall. This is actually a bad fight. It's not a bad stylistic matchup, it's a bad fight. Regis Prograis is a flat-footed fighter. Jack Catterall is not. Regis Prograis is a one-punch puncher. Jack Catterall is not. Regis Prograis is a power puncher who will get you out of there. Jack Catterall has a chin, and it's been proven. He took some shots and against Josh Taylor and didn't go nowhere. This is a bad fight for Regis Prograis. I know that Regis Prograis is the name. He's got the following. Regis Prograis has, he has everything going for him except for inside of this fight. His footwork is going to be the dilemma here. I'm favoring Jack Catterall. I think Jack Catterall is going to outpoint this man. He's never going to hurt him. If anybody gets hurt, it's going to be Jack Catterall. Regis will never be hurt. But Jack Catterall will outpoint him. He has the faster hands. He lets go a lot of his shots in combinations where Regis is a one-punch puncher. He has the better footwork. He has the better movement. This is just not a good fight for Regis Prograis. And I understand that people like Regis and, BF, what you talking about? Styles make fights, not fighters, and they always have and they always will. This fight right here is going to be Jack Catterall's retribution for the robbery that he received against Josh Taylor. I have Jack Catterall beating Regis Prograis by split decision, but I don't think it's going to be that close. But he's going to beat him by split decision, and I have Jack Catterall moving on to face the winner of Jose Zapata versus Gary Antoine Russell. With the second fight in the second round of this tournament between Jose Zapata and Gary Antoine Russell. This fight is going to be a lot easier than the fight that he had against Subadal Matias. Gary Antoine Russell is literally learning on the job, but he's a very, very good fighter. Jose Zapata is a very good fighter. Jose Zapata keeps punches at the end of he keeps his power at the end of his punches. He works off the jab. He's very crispy. This is going to be a difficult fight. Difficult fight for both fighters. Gary Antoine Russell's effective aggression, not just his aggression, his effective aggression, is going to neutralize a lot of things that Jose Zapata wants to do by keeping his fighters at reach and keeping them on the end of his punch where his power is at. With that being said, Gary Antoine Russell is going to have to worry about getting past that power that's at the end of his punches. Jose Zapata is very good with distance and very good with range. Gary Antoine is going to have to keep that at the end. He's going to have to get inside of that to have his best work. Not to say that he can't, he won't, he'll have good work, but he'll have to get inside of that to have his best work. And I believe he will. I believe Gary Antoine Russell will take some shots, but I believe that he will get inside of that and he will put some pressure on Jose Zapata, and he will land some good shots that Zapata he's not going to be ready for. He's not going to be ready for. And I can see Gary Antoine Russell winning this fight by unanimous decision and moving on to fight Jack Catterall in the final fight. With the final fight between Jack Catterall and Gary Antoine Russell, this is going to be an ebb and flow, a back and forth type of fight, where Jack Catterall has a superior footwork. He does a lot of punches and bunches. He's very good chin. He's just a very good fighter. He's a very good overall fighter. Gary Antoine Russell is a very good overall fighter himself. Gary Antoine Russell definitely has the power edge. Gary Antoine Russell has the grit. Well, they both have grit. This is a very, very good fight. It's not going to be a war of attrition like the Matisse fight. It's not going to be a one-sided blowout fight like the Zapata versus Barbosa fight. It's not going to be something like that. This is going to be an ebb and flow fight. It's going to be a fight where a couple of rounds are going to go to Jack Catterall. Then a couple of rounds are going to go to Gary Russell. It's going to be a back and forth type of fight. This fight is going to go down to the wire. There will be no stoppage. All right, I know Gary Antoine Russell is looked at as the knockout artist, but that's because the level of competition has been knockout worthy. Fighting these type of guys right here, he is not going to be stopping these guys. He is not stopping Jack Catterall. I don't care what y'all say, it's not going to happen. But he will beat that man. He will beat that man on a split decision, and Gary Antoine Russell will become the undisputed 140-pound champion, and he will reign supreme. Long live the king. BFTB. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. And I'm out.